Welcome back to the Hey Soul Sister podcast. Today's episode is all about something so many of us crave at some point in our lives: reinvention. Maybe you're feeling stuck, lost in a version of yourself that no longer fits. Or maybe life has handed you a moment or a mess that's calling you to rise, evolve, and become someone new. In this episode, we're diving into what it really takes to reinvent yourself from the inside out, not just surface level change, but deep, soulful transformation. We're talking about releasing old stories, finding the courage to let go, and stepping into the next bold version of who you were meant to be. So, if you're ready to rewrite your narrative and awaken the woman within who's been waiting to lead, this one's for you. So, let's get into it. Okay. For me, reinvention feels like an identity shift, right? And I think most of us have gone through that, like an identity shift in parts of our lives, right? And I think we're constantly growing, we're constantly evolving, we're constantly changing who we are. It's not about creating our identity, it's about finding our identity. So I think the word reinvention comes from like really finding who we are at the core, right? So when we talk about reinvention, I think a lot of us have felt that we need to change something in our lives that no longer serves us, that no longer fits who we are or our identity. What are your thoughts on that for you, Whitley? Because I know that both of us have been through identity shifts in our lives and reinvented ourselves many times.
So the first thing that comes to mind is anytime that I stepped into an identity shift, it always came after a period of discomfort, a feeling of like something feels off, something doesn't feel right. And it typically comes with these other feelings of feeling stuck, like kind of looping in the same patterns, the same cycles. And the best way I can describe it is like on the surface of your day to day, nothing's really different. Nothing has really changed. But internally, it almost feels like your soul is screaming at you and telling you like something needs to change. Something's off. Something's no longer in alignment. And it can be really frustrating, especially in the very beginning. Cause like when I think about the very beginning of these experiences of identity shifting, I didn't understand it. I just thought, okay, I'm depressed or I am having kind of going through a rough patch in my life right now. A lot of feelings of like hopelessness sometimes that comes in, hopelessness, despair, that stuckness, feeling like, what is the point of all of this? Yeah. So I think that having those feelings really brought something up, and it comes up for a reason to show us that something isn't serving us and it's time to change, it's time to evolve, it's time to grow. So that's always where it always started for me, and I think the same kind of goes for you too. And I think it's natural. Like I feel like that's everybody feels the feeling of like something's off, and then it's kind of like, instead of numbing, because I've also done that in the past too, numbing it out, where whether it's just like, having an extra couple glasses of wine in the evening or, binge watching Netflix or, whatever, but always just kind of numbing out the feelings rather than just actually sitting with the feelings and asking myself, where's this coming up? Like, where's this coming from? Why is this happening? And what is it here to teach me? What is it here to show me? Because oftentimes in that discomfort, when you sit with that discomfort, you start to realize some of the stories, the limitations, the patterns, the behaviors that have just been kind of like operating on autopilot for a number of years or however long it's been operating for you. But you realize that in those little pieces of your life, of your day to day, aren't fully in alignment with what you truly desire and what you truly want. And in order to step into what you truly want and what you truly desire, you have to be willing to face the old version of yourself that is no longer in alignment with that new version that is more in alignment with that new self. So with that being said, that's the first thing. That's the first thing, right? Is just recognizing that stage and when that discomfort comes up. What about for you? Like, can you speak on your experience of how that has looked for you before you've gone through an identity shift?
Yeah, and I think you don't even know what it is when you feel it. It's a feeling of disconnection, I would say. Like you feel disconnected from everything, everyone that you once knew, or the things that you were doing, the ways you were operating or behaving, or the place you were even living sometimes, you know? And I think that sometimes you question those things because you're no longer in alignment. And at one point you were, perhaps, and that vibration was at that, level of everything around you, which was your reality, which made sense, which was aligned. And now it feels like pieces have been moving, or you have been growing, or some part of you is wanting to really show up as the original identity, the person that you never really knew. And I think our identity comes from when we were born, right? We get programmed, right, through the years. We start to have these beliefs because people have told us we need to be a certain way and do certain things, and this is how it is. Whether it be people in your life or people around you or government or whatever that looks like. It's like rules, 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 rules.
Mhm.
So your identity shifts into adapting to the surroundings that you're going into. So you adapt to that and you start to live that life. But I feel like an identity shift is almost like an awakening. It feels like all the things you once knew or thought to be true are no longer true for you. And so that disconnect happens where you feel no longer that same person, right? So in reinventing yourself is about I feel it is about recognizing who you are to your core, like before all of that programming, and then sitting with that discomfort, like you said. And that's a good word because many people get uncomfortable with the identity shifting and they start, the number one thing is be aware of it, I think, and don't be afraid to be uncomfortable with it. And it will feel uncomfortable. But I think in your heart, you know that you can't go back to that version of you
Mhm.
that was that. And you know that you have to reinvent yourself some way, somehow. And sometimes people don't know how to do that, right? Because they have all these restrictions, or so they think. And they're like, well, I'm too old to do this now. I'm not smart enough. I have imposter syndrome. You know, there's no, like, I don't have credentials. Whatever that excuse is for you, you start to put that in your mind because those are the stories you've been fed in your life, right? So you start to revisit those things and say, you know what? I can't do this. So you stay stuck. But reinventing yourself requires courage. It requires bravery to look within, to get uncomfortable, to recognize the truth, to be aware of the truth of what it is that you want in your life, regardless of what other people think, or, kind of dismantling the whole system of what
Mm.
you were taught.
It's so like letting go, the releasing of the old versions of yourself. There was one thing too that you mentioned though in terms of stepping into that new identity, right? And I'm sure many of you out there listening are, maybe wondering the question, well, how do I step into that? How do I even know who I am becoming? How do I know for sure? And who is she? And what does she look like? And what does she do? And all the things. And this is where I've always been really good at mapping out that vision for myself, right? So like when I know that something's out of alignment, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for my next up level. I'm ready to step into, a new version of Whitley. I always get really clear on what does that version of her look like, right? And you have to also like kind of like piggybacking off of what you're saying, we're so programmed by society and our family, our friends and everything around us, right? We're programmed. And what that means is we have a set of beliefs, right, that we operate from.
Mhm.
Yet those beliefs can be reprogrammed. So we can always change those beliefs at any given time and we can reprogram our minds to have more empowering beliefs, whatever beliefs that it is that we want to have. And so if you can get clear on who you want to step into, whether that's someone who is leading a more healthy and active lifestyle, and maybe that's what it looks like for you. Maybe it's somebody who really takes care of herself and loves herself fully and has loving, wholesome, healthy relationships. Maybe that's who you're stepping into. And so I always say, and I've always been a big journaler. And so when building out a vision, I always tell people to, start with a journal and start writing her down. Start writing it down as though it is a story. Like you're the author right now and you get to write the script. You get to rewrite her and who she looks like, who she is, how she shows up. There are no rules here. Like you said, Sherry, like there's no rules here whatsoever. And once you get clear on that, then you can sort of like work in a bit of a roadmap. And that's something that I have helped so many, clients in the past with, is really rewiring those next level versions of themselves and embodying that until it actually shows up in their physical reality, because we're constantly creating our reality based up on our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, and that's the output of what we get is what happens internally. So
Yeah.
build out the vision. If you're not sure where to start there. Get out a book, a pen, and start journaling and just go within and really feeling and being honest with yourself of who you want to become.
Yeah, that's really, I feel like that's step one. Like,
Mm.
really understanding who you want to be or become and embodying that person. And it's not just about thinking it, it's about acting like it. It's about really centering your mind with your nervous system and your heart, your intuition, and feeling her, feeling that person that is who you are. And you know who you wanna be. That's the thing is, like, our higher versions of ourselves know exactly who we wanna be because we've been there, right? I feel like we've already been there in another lifetime or whatever. We can get super woo-woo here, but we're gonna just say, you know who you wanna be, you know? So, if you can get that on paper or, do something that helps you envision it or reimagine it and start acting like her, start talking like her, start showing up as her, and be confident in who you are. Because I'll tell you, it's a process because we have the fear of judgment, the fear of rejection, the fear of I mean, all these shadows come up, when we start to try to reinvent ourselves, but face them because they're coming up to make you uncomfortable so that you can turn into that version of yourself and get through that hump. That's just a hump. It doesn't last forever, but it's work to get there because I feel like if it wasn't work, then everybody would be doing it. But if we look at the people that are showing up exactly who they are and authentic in who they are, and they don't care despite what people think about them, and they're just doing it, right? How are they doing it? Well, I think it's all about aligning themselves with their mindset and their beliefs and those shadows, facing those shadows head on. Because they still have those shadows. If you look at it, those shadows don't go away, right? And when we talk about shadows, it's something you walk down and you see your shadow on the wall. Does it go away ever? No, but you got to face it. You got to face them and be like, I'm not afraid of you. I can do this regardless, right? And the thing is the awareness is being aware of the truth. Like, if I show up like this, does it mean that everyone's going to judge me? Sure, they might judge you, but guess what? That's none of your business, right? And I think it's like, if some people judge you, they're another set of people that are supportive of you, that love you. And I think that's another thing is like really having the right people around you during your reinvention. You want to pluck out the ones that are draining your whole old identity, that energy that no longer serves you, the people, places, things that you were doing, the habits, everything out the window and start new. So, who are you going to attract now that is going to only lift your energy to that reinvention process so that you can step into the version of you, right? And I've said it before. I say, if you're going to hang around five negative people, you're going to be the sixth negative person, right? So it's the same thing. It's like if you surround yourself with the right people and they're only there to uplift you, then you will see a version of yourself that you've never seen before. But if you're constantly reminded of the old version of you, that's taking 10 steps backwards, right? So it's really making the conscious decision to show up with that energy and attracting the right type of energy so you don't go back to that. And you could go back to it. And I said this before too. You could want to go back because it's familiar. That old version of you is familiar and it's safe or whatever, but it doesn't feel fulfilling, right? And in my life, I have reinvented so many times, but, even recently quitting my job, my very, very successful career to do this, it just felt uncomfortable but it felt like I couldn't go back. So I think reinvention is something that, pushes us outside of our comfort zone, of our familiarity, the people, the places, the things we used to do, and stepping into that new version of ourselves with courage and facing those things that once, made us afraid to move forward. And as you take a step forward, little by little, you're going to start to see the magic of who you are unfold, and you're going to fall in love with this new version of you. And it takes time, but it's so, so worth it.
It is. It is so worth it. There's so many beauty, like there's so many blessings and there's so much beauty on the other side of that comfort zone of the identity that you're living in right now. And I want to share a few practical tips with you today so that you can actually walk away from today's episode and start applying them. And the other thing too that I'm going to know, I'll save it to like the end, but I just want to also like just say, even if you apply what I'm about to share with you to like one area of your life, I will guarantee you, if you stick with it, I will guarantee that you will see a difference within a week to 2 weeks, maybe even less. Depends on how much you believe in it and how much you're open and receptive to receiving. But here's the thing. So I shared with you the first thing was to map out your vision. So write it in, write a couple of paragraphs out and get really clear on who it is that you want to become. The next thing I want you to do is on a piece of paper, I want you to write down limitations at the top of your page. And I want you to start to identify what are the habits, what are the beliefs, what are the behaviors that you are operating in currently that is preventing you from stepping into that version of her. Once you get clear, that's where the gold is, because once you have the awareness of the things that you need to change and let go of, everything becomes so much easier, I promise. Then on the next page, what I want you to do is I want you to actually write out empowering beliefs, habits, and behaviors. And then I want you to list out a couple of 3 to 5 new empowering beliefs that are in alignment with that new version of you. And then I want you to write out a couple of habits that she does on her day to day and a few behaviors that she also incorporates. Okay. The next step, the final step. So what you're going to do is every single day, you're going to read that vision, your vision statement, the becoming, okay? You're going to read that out every single morning. The next thing you're going to do, and if you do this in the mirror, it's even more powerful. But then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to read out those new empowering beliefs. So you want to write them as though it's like I am, almost like I am affirmations. If you've ever heard of affirmations, super powerful. I've literally changed my life using affirmations. So saying these I am statements out loud is what it's going to do. It's going to help to integrate these new beliefs into your subconscious mind. Everything that's operating in autopilot, all your habits, your behaviors, everything is literally running from the subconscious. That's everything that's programmed over the period of your life. So what we want to do is we want to program the subconscious with some new beliefs that are in alignment with that new version of you. And then the last step is the step where we kind of piece it all together and layer it in with what Sherry has been talking about. And that's embodying these new habits, these new behaviors. So, what you're going to do is every single day, you're going to wake up and you're going to act as if you were already her, not from the old version. Because if you're operating from the old version, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to create that same reality over and over. So, what you want to do is start to operate from the new version. And it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to be kind of like, okay, you're pretending here. Like, this is awkward. This is uncomfortable. But I promise you, it works. So, start to integrate those habits, those patterns, those behaviors on a day to day basis. So, if we just kind of put this in a simple format, our thoughts create our feelings dictate our actions. So make sure that you are focusing on thoughts that are in alignment with that new version of you. because then that dictates the feeling, the emotion. That's the charge. That's the energetic charge. Okay. That's going to dictate the emotion that's also going to be in alignment with your newer self. And then what's going to happen is you're automatically going to start to act as though, and then there's this period of time. And there's this little period of time, I call it like the gray space, because there's a period of time of when you show up from the inner part of you, right? When you're showing up, working on the inner parts of you, it takes some time for your reality, the physical world, to catch up. So that's why I call it the gray, like the gray zone. There's this period of time where it is going to feel maybe a little uncomfortable. Like, is this working? Is this gonna, like, do anything? All I'm gonna say is be patient, and sometimes this can happen within a week, sometimes this can happen within weeks, sometimes maybe even less depending on where you're at in your spiritual journey. Maybe it's gonna take months, it could take a year, okay? It depends on where you're at, it depends on what you're trying to integrate, and it depends on how committed you are to those changes. But like I said, you can try this with almost anything, and it flows in with manifestation, it flows in with like creating your reality, all the things. But that is literally my roadmap, my formula that I have used. Of course, I have a whole bunch of other tools and other things that I integrate within this process, but as just an easy couple of steps that you can take away today and apply that for yourself, whether that's you trying to incorporate more fitness into your routine, maybe you're trying to love yourself more, take care of you, and set up healthier boundaries. Whatever it is, you can take this roadmap and apply it today. And I promise you, if you stick with it, you'll see some results.
I love that. Yes. And what would you say for somebody who is new to journaling, right? And this is something that I feel like journaling is, this is great because you told them exactly how to do it because this has worked for you. I think that's amazing. If they didn't journal, what would you say for somebody to embody every day? What can they do differently to embody that version of themselves? Maybe they have it in their head, they already know that. What does that feel like? Yeah, when you show up and embody that.
Yeah. And you're right. And it's a good point too, right? You can, if you're someone who doesn't necessarily write and you're somebody who just can visualize, right? Like you just thinking about it. That's also just as equally as powerful. So just the main thing is get clear on what it is, the destination that you're trying to arrive at. Okay. We need a destination. Otherwise, we're just going to be going in circles. We're not going to know exactly where we're going. So if you can just get clear in your mind what that looks like, or if it's through vision boarding,
That's
or
what I was gonna say, yeah. Vision board
yeah,
would be amazing to do. I was actually thinking that yesterday. I was like, I should do a vision board because I haven't done one since before my kids were
yeah,
born,
vision
and I
boards are
actually was
super
going to do
powerful.
it. Yeah,
You should
and
totally do one.
I think so, and I think the thing is like, okay, some people might not know exactly what they want. That's the other thing. That's the other piece. But I think that when you go through vision boarding, you can look through magazines and you might see something that really pops out at you and you go, "You know what? I want that. I didn't know I wanted that, but I want that." And so for somebody that doesn't really understand what they want for their future yet, that's okay. I struggle with that sometimes too because I can't get a clear vision sometimes. But if you can look through those photos or look through things that inspire you, make note. Make note of those things because that's usually an indication that there's a part of you that wants that, a
And
big
the other
part.
thing too is like you're naturally going to be drawn to certain things. And so that's why I say like for me like writing it down, dumping it on paper helps me, but you can vision board, you can visualize, you can speak to yourself through audio, record yourself, whatever works for you. Like there's no rules. You can get creative with this. But the thing is like we're not trying to figure out the entire plan of who you are like in 10 years from now. We're not trying to do that. We're just trying to bring in a couple of things that you know you want to change. So maybe it's something within relationships. Maybe you're fed up with the relationship that you've been in, right? And you're like, I know this is no longer serving me. I know the kind of love that I actually truly desire because I know what I don't want, right? Get honest with yourself. Have the courage to show up and to speak your truth, right? Get clear on those things. Maybe you're looking to have more connection. Maybe you're looking to build deeper connections with people who get you, who people who love you and accept you. Maybe you've previously been surrounded by people who don't actually like give you that love and that support that you desire and need, right? So I'm not thinking about just, surface level things, materialistic things,
Mhm.
like, all of those things. I'm thinking more of like deeper rooted things because when you can get the deeper rooted things together, all of the other surface level things come so much easier. So
Yeah.
those deeper rooted things, listen, you already know what it is that you want. You just have to listen and be honest with yourself. And so
Mhm.
you can use the form of vision boards, you can use the form of journaling, you can use whatever it is that works for you. And it doesn't have to be complicated. We're not trying to
Right.
complicate this. We're trying to make it so simple, right? So even if you wanted to start with one area of your life that you want to create for yourself, if that feels easier, if that feels lighter, then
Right.
start with that, right? We don't want to
Yeah.
overwhelm. We don't want to
Yeah.
overcomplicate.
Yeah, you're right. It could be around fitness, like health and fitness. It could be something I want to be a healthier version of myself. I want to take care of myself. I want to, I just feel this need to take care of my body. And so you might have a vision board or a journal page that is dedicated to that only. And so it creates less overwhelm when you can focus on one thing at a time versus the whole picture, right? And starting to change little parts of yourself or your life, and then you'll start to see everything come together as you get through that health journey. You're like, you know what, but I want to change this part now. Okay, I'm going to take a different page and I'm going to go write about my relationships or the job I'm in. I don't like my job I'm in. I've been working it too long and people don't treat me right there. Like, what do I do? So you start to write down, what is your dream job? What are the things that you want to do? How do you want to impact? What is it that you want? Right? What do you want to leave
Right.
behind? And I think it comes down to the greater purpose of your life. It's not just about working to work and survive and pay the bills. You're actually, sometimes we forget that we're human beings and we only live once.
Mhm.
So if we're not going to live it and we're only working to survive, what's the point? And so that's
Right.
why I always say, like, I listen to myself because myself knows what I need. And so have to listen to yourself. What do you need in that moment? What are you going to focus on today? You don't have to focus on the whole thing today, right? And I think that's the key, is taking the baby steps, doing the little things.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, so I brought up some memories of a couple of clients I worked with back before, and one of them, I remember she came to me because she wanted help with getting her business up and going, right? So she was working in a full-time job, but she was really trying to launch her fashion company out into the world. And during the time, like, she was in the middle of moving states, all the things. And I remember sitting with her and working at the inner level of things. And we worked on a lot of like the self-love things, the letting go, the allowing the new, the transitions, all of the inner stuff. And, eventually, as she started to work through the things I shared and like basically that roadmap, what started to happen was opportunities started to slowly flow to her. Okay. She started
Mm.
to like make connections with other people in the industry where she was being published in a paper, and like just different opportunities start flowing her way. And like today, like years later, she's just exploded in her business and like doing what she loves. But I
Yeah.
believe it's like it starts at the inner, it starts with you. It starts inside.
Starts
Your
at the core.
Yeah, like that inner game is really where it starts, and then the rest will follow, right?
Yes, and it's definitely, you're right, it's the inner work that you need to do first, because your inside, or your limiting beliefs are all, like, nestled in, like, little areas where they're stuck, you know? So if you don't, like, let those go, you're always going to hit those roadblocks because your beliefs have never been tended to or changed or rewritten. So it always starts from the root, right? Like, people say, "Oh, you can just do it, do it, do it with your mind," but you can't do it just with your mind and sustain it. That's not sustainable. The sustainable way is to be aware of your inner triggers, the shadows, the beliefs, the internal dialogues. The work starts there. And then it goes to the mind, and then it, like, transfers, right? So it's like the mind and the heart, the mind and the intuition, everything. It just, like, it works as truth. And I think when you can work with truth, you know it's going to be okay because you're settling into exactly who you are, because you're embodying the version of you that just wants to come out despite those limiting beliefs that were there. And they might still be lingering, but you know how to deal with them now. So how do you deal with those? You have to tackle those first. And whether it be breath work, meditation, going to a retreat, which we're hosting very soon, journaling. There's so many modalities of really getting to the root of the problems, of the beliefs. I'm
Yeah.
not saying they're problems, because I feel like those things can be strengths too, right? But also like saying that, recognizing them and recognizing what those triggers are every time you say you don't make a decision to go to that event, that networking event, because you're afraid of being around other people. That's social anxiety. Well, why are you afraid?
Mm.
Right? And looking at that, and what if you got over those, not got over, but what if you faced those shadows? And what if you did it anyway? And what if you looked within yourself before you went there and opened yourself up? What would happen? And I think it's really allowing those neat surprises to come through. And I always tell you this, Whitley, I'm like, I just love the surprises. I love trusting in the process. I love not knowing what's going to happen next. And I think it's like, if you can allow yourself to be brave for the adventure and to face those limiting beliefs or those fears or those triggers or shadows or whatever's holding you back, if you can face those head on and say, I'm not going to do what you want me to do, then you're going to see those surprises, like you said, attracting all these opportunities and things to you because you're opening yourself. You're creating a vessel of open light. Like you're just like, I want whatever's coming to me right now. And I'm accepting it and I'm ready for it. Right. And
Absolutely.
not allowing it. Right.
If you think about your energy beyond being on levels, right? So, like, think of energy operates on different levels. And so, the higher the levels you go, the more blessings and the more like it's like abundance that you have access to, right? But the thing is, people are trying to go to the next level while carrying all of this weight on their back. And you just can't do it because your vessel is no longer, it doesn't have capacity to receive anything. So you really do have to let go and release the old, release the baggage, release what no longer is serving you so you can go to that next level and vessel who can hold the energy of abundance, who can hold the energy of all of the blessings and the opportunities that are in alignment with that version of yourself who is a match for that level, but you've got to be willing to let go to step into it. And that's scary. Like, I can think of so many times in my life, like Toronto, for example, I knew something was off. I knew I felt like I hit a ceiling. I knew there was more beyond where I was currently living. And that was Toronto for whatever reason. God put that in my heart. And listening to that was terrifying. I think it was when I gave my month's notice, to my landlord. It was like that was real. It was like, okay, there's no going back. And it was just like piece by piece. But during that process, I made sure that I got really clear on the vision and I was lining myself up and aligning myself with that next version and doing all the steps so that fear, doubt, worry, didn't take over me during the process of stepping into that next level version of myself. And since being, in Toronto, I've also reinvented myself many ways. And it's just crazy when I think back to that girl. I say girl, I was a woman still, but I feel like I was a girl then. I've grown so much. But like when I left Toronto at age 29, or when I left New Brunswick at age 29 to come to Ontario, and where I am today, I'm living a life that I wrote on paper like a decade ago. And it's just like it blows my mind. It's like this shit works, but you've got to be willing to show up and do the work,
We can
right?
have a whole other episode on manifestation, because I know for me, I'm a visual, like I'm a feeler. Like I manifest through feelings or speaking them out loud. And you manifest through journaling, which is amazing. And I feel like there's so many different ways to know exactly what you want. So, I've told this story too before, where I was in India for 4 years and I was at the church and I told I pretty much asked for everything I want in that church and I got everything I wanted, later. So I feel like it's just like Understanding exactly not what you think you want,
It's a good
that's
one.
the thing. It's not what you think you want. A lot of people, they think they want things, you know, they're like, "I want this house, I want this car." Well, do you though? Like, ask yourself the question, what do I really what's gonna make me really happy? Because, you know, there's somebody who's a follower and somebody who's a, you know, somebody who just leads themselves. I wanna lead my life. I don't wanna follow everyone's life. I wanna lead my life. And so if you're a follower, you're gonna want what everybody else wants around you because you think that's what makes them happy. And all of that is perception. And a lot of it is a lie, to be honest, because people that have a lot of money, it's not necessary that they are happy. Right? So, where's your happiness? Like for me, I would rather live a simple life. I would rather have a house that has the least amount of stuff, minimalistic look, because I feel like that's more clutter for me. That's more overwhelm for me. So, what makes your life better? What makes your life simpler? What makes your life more fulfilling and happy and meaningful? Right? And I think that's what you have to ask yourself too is what will make my life meaningful? And how simple can it be? Because simplicity is something that's been so, like, underrated. Like, I think that not many people think that, you know, they need to live this lavish lifestyle and be successful and do this, then that, and this and that. Like, really, it's just living in the present that we need to work on. It's living with what we have right now and being grateful every single day. Gratitude is such a big part of manifestation and reinventing yourself as well. It is really about understanding what it is that you have and the blessings you actually have, and then noticing the things that you don't really need. So, I think both go hand in hand, you know, like reinventing yourself doesn't necessarily mean changing who you are, but it's also what are your surroundings like? What is your environment like? What are the people in your life like? What kind of lifestyle do you want?
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
you agree? Yeah.
100% I agree with that. And here's the thing too, it's like when we're doing this work, it's not always easy, and it sometimes can feel isolating, it can sometimes feel frustrating, especially if you're alone in it and you don't have, a community, or you don't have, you know, a best friend or a close friend who gets you and who may be on a similar path as you, right? I am so grateful that I've had you share this whole entire time. I would be lost without you. I honestly would. And like she's like she's my rock, right? Like she's the one who I call when I'm going through a crisis. She's the one who I call when I've had a major meltdown, or when I'm going through something, or when I want to celebrate something, like when something goes really well. Like she is my go-to person to call and share the experience of this journey with. And so I really want to take a moment to share with all of you guys that Sherry and I, after being best friends for like 10 years now and sort of dabbling in some of this work that we're doing today, you know, paths never really aligned well, but it is now. And we are so excited to share that we're launching our first retreat, Soul Sister Retreat. It's called Awaken Her. And it's a weekend retreat for women to come together to really basically reinvent who they are, to step into who they're becoming, to release the old, to acknowledge the things that they really need to let go and release, and then to be able to form that new vision to step into, and to really gain some insights, to gain some actual practical tools to begin integrating that and embodying that. But more importantly, it's a weekend of connection. It's a weekend of sisterhood for women who are also going through the same thing, to come together under one roof and to not feel alone, to not feel judged, and to truly feel safe, to feel seen, to feel understood, and to really to move through this journey together. And I know that it's going to create some powerful lifelong friendships. Sherry and I, you know, I just like her and I, her and I, our energy together is, you know, it's just it's fire. I love it. Like when we're together
Yeah.
and I know like we're attracting the right women to this retreat. We've already got some signups already, so there are only just a few spots left. We are capping it out so that we can keep the circle small, you know, and intimate. And yeah, so if you're interested in joining us on this transformative weekend, we would invite you to send us a message. I think what we'll do is maybe do we want to pop the we'll probably
Yeah,
pop
we'll
the
pop
link
the
down in
link
the
in
description.
down in the description, yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and then you can check it out, the retreat guide to see more information about the weekend and everything. But basically, it's going to be hosted in Kingston Peninsula in New Brunswick. Beautiful, beautiful place, right on the river. It's
It's
gorgeous.
like a
Everything. It's like the
luxury
perfect
resort.
yeah,
Yes.
it's like the perfect getaway for the weekend. So,
I know.
and one thing I want to just say too, because I know that for some of you, you may be thinking, you know what, I'd love to come, but I don't want to come alone. Like, I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody who I could bring with me, and I don't want to show up alone and be there with strangers. Here's the thing, I get you. I really do. And I would be that woman thinking the exact same thing. But what I want to say is that be
Mm,
open because we are here to welcome you with open arms. And we want you to feel safe. We want you to feel supported and you belong.
yeah.
So if that's something that feels like it's resonating, if like you're feeling a whisper in your soul, hey, maybe this episode was for you. Maybe there's something here for you. Maybe your soul is speaking to you like this is it. You're ready to step into this next level version of yourself who you know you've been waiting to step into. Yeah, we invite you to come and check out the information, and if it resonates, then we would love to have you. So with that,
Yeah. Well
Sherry.
said, Whitley, and I also wanna say I love you because you gave me that spiel, and I didn't get to talk, so I'm gonna say it.
Okay.
I love you so much. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you and with all the women that are, feeling this call to come. And I feel like a lot of the women that, you know, they've thought about going on a retreat or, they've been wanting something different in their lives. Like I think this is the time in our lives that we need this the most. And it's time to invest in ourselves and stop being everything for everyone else all the time and actually show up for ourselves. And in this weekend, our mission is, like Whitley said, to make everyone feel seen, heard, validated. There's gonna be moments of tears. I'm not I'm sure, right? But this is the moment of transformation. It is actually looking within yourselves to reinvent who you are to the version of you that maybe you've never met. And there are going to be so many healing experiences through this weekend. And I think that both of us here are you're listening to this podcast right now for a reason. And maybe this is not the retreat right now, but maybe it will be in the future. So just keep that in mind that we're here for you whenever you're ready, whenever you're open to looking within you and surrounding yourself with, the love and light that you deserve because every woman deserves that. And I think we make excuses and say we have to take care of this and that and this and that. But there comes a time in our lives where we need to take care of ourselves, and listen to our hearts and what we need in that moment. So we invite you, like Whitley said, and we're so excited. It's May 16th to the 18th in the Kingston Peninsula. So the link will be in the description if you want to sign up, and we can't wait. So thanks for tuning into this episode.
Yeah. Have a great week, everyone. Sending so much love, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.